Hi, my name is John Cassie. I'm the head of senior school at Swickley Academy in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Swickley is an independent school. We've been educating children here in Western Pennsylvania since 1838. Prior to becoming the head of senior school here at Swickley, I was the assistant head of school at Milken Community High School in Los Angeles. Prior to that, I was on the faculty at Green Hill School in Dallas. And prior to that, I was a graduate student and academic advisor at Ohio State University. I earned a doctorate in education leadership in 2010 from UCLA, and like I said, I've been on the staff here at Swickley for 5 months. I think from the earliest days that I can remember thinking about career and what I wanted to do with my life, I've wanted to be an educator. I think I've always had the education career path in my head. I can remember being fascinated by what my teachers were doing when I was myself just a student, and I think it's always been high in my agenda to be an educator. High school, university, middle school, that was not clear to me, and frankly, I like teaching all grades because the job of working with kids is so different depending on how old they are. But I've always wanted to be an educator, and I've been in independent school education for 15 years and in education generally for nearly 20. So my teaching practice and my leadership practice centers on trying to find ways to bridge the gap between what is perceived to be sometimes an abstruse and difficult to gain purchase and idea, 21st century skills. Some people I've heard argue say that there is no such thing, or they don't know what that means, and with more conventional core skills and methods. Now, what I believe is that at its heart, the best education melds what Aristotle and Plato were doing so well in 4th century BC Greece, which is to say, focusing on critical thinking and critical expression of what you thought. Melding that with 21st century skills, which is to say, how do you make meaning in a digitally mediated environment? How do you collaborate when collaboration can be global? How do you learn when learning can and should be self-directed? How do you create when criticality and creativity have not always been seen as working hand in hand? When you think about game-based learning, when you think about design-based education, when you think about education for democracy, when you think about place-based learning, when you think about all of these methods, they're all trying to get at the same thing, which is to say, what can students think? How do they think? And what do they do with their learning to apply it in a more engaged way than simply engaging with a test or engaging with a book report or with the conventional products of 19th and 20th century education. When I think about the methods that I use in my classroom, I do all of the things that I just talked about. I use game-based methods, I use design-based methods, I use self-direction, I use creativity. I don't use conventional exams very much because I don't think that they serve the purposes that I'm interested in serving. What I want is for students to demonstrate the capacity to use whatever content we're trying to explore, and then to apply it in some way that they can make decisions about their lives. I just taught a course on the federal election in the United States, and the goal of that was not to get them to understand the history of elections per se, but rather to understand why is it that American liberal democracy functions the way that it does. Why are there really two expressions of American political identity, one represented by Hamilton and one represented by Jefferson, instead of 4 or 5? There are plenty of democracies that have multiple valences, but in the United States, just 2. Why? That can be best explored by using the methods that I just described, rather than, from my perspective at least, me lecturing and them listening. when I think about gamified classrooms, I'm not as interested in gamified materials as I am in gamified methods. I think about some of the scholarship on game-based learning. The most important takeaway for me, and I think this is from a book called Gamer Theory, is that a game space is the last space in the industrialized West that is purely meritocratic. When you think about the way that students play games, you think about the way they play big, massively multiplayer games like World of Warcraft or EVE or what have you. It's entirely meritocratic. If you are good at what you do, if you're good at game playing, you're going to win. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your background is. All of the things that you might think would play an effect, or that would have an effect in 20th century educational success. If you gamify it, it's not there. It levels the playing field. So I'm interested in gamified methods rather than in how a particular game might be used in a classroom or not. For that very reason. So when I have built courses that have gamified components or that are purely gamified, I think about the games that I play and how you can use the ways that they motivate players to motivate learners. I play World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online game with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of different ways that you might play the game and derive meaning, derive pleasure, derive learning, derive, whatever you're trying to get out of the game, you can get. What's fascinating to me about the way that World of Warcraft structures the game experience is that you can transfer that into a classroom, which is what I did in a course I taught last year called America 3.0. I wanted students to have an opportunity to explore a wide variety of content areas in contemporary American history, and to do them in a purely self-directed way, and to learn about the culture of America in 1990 and the foreign policy of the United States and the Carter administration and technology history, etc., in ways that were uniquely meaningful to a student. There was no expectation that a student would understand the SALT I Accords or that they would understand why Madonna is important. But rather, the individual student had to find their own pathway through the experience of learning about the history of the United States. Now, what's fantastic about that is that it allows each student to individually come to mastery. I also created a system whereby students working on what I called boss questions, level 10, level 20 questions, would be able to work together to solve those boss problems, because some content you can do individually, but some you really do better when you're with a group. So there's the content side, the what are you learning, but then there's the what are you doing side, and that happens in any video game. You know that when you're playing Super Mario Brothers, or when you're playing Wii Tennis, right, that there's a way of doing the game that's going to help you to succeed in the object. Okay, that's the same here. The core skills I was interested in students acquiring were all, in some respects, either 4th century BC skills or they were 21st century skills. So I wanted students to learn how to read more critically, write more critically, to speak more critically. And that's critical because we often don't talk about effective speaking in a high school setting. But moreover, I wanted them to think about design. If you wanted someone to learn about Madonna, Lady Gaga, or about the relationship of the Apollo program to Microsoft, there are ways to do that that are creative, that are expressive, that are iterative, and that don't have anything to do with sort of taking a test or writing a paper. That was the goal. The goal also was to use these methods to generate flow, to generate engagement, to generate personal commitment. Worked for some students, it didn't work for others. My colleague Mike Irwin, who you spoke with earlier, had even better success with these methods in his 7th and 8th grade classes than I had with the seniors that I was working with. But we both learned that these methods, when you unpack them successfully, they have a profound and powerful effect on the ways in which students commit to their own learning, self-direct, and learn far more than they would learn if you just did things the old-fashioned way. We want students to be able to take different ideas from a variety of perspectives and make meaning from them. That, to me, is a 21st century habit of working, habit of thinking that gamification, a gamified classroom, uniquely develops in students. Students that I worked with worked in a one-to-one classroom environment, so they all had laptops, they all had iPads or other tools. I think that when you look at the world that's emerging, the tablet is likely to be the one that's going to be the most appropriate. But students also need access to video cameras. They need access to still photography. They need access to really powerful tools to help them build a collaborative structure together. I've done consulting with organizations in Europe and in Israel to help their teachers to develop programs, curriculum that kind of will speak to more universal questions. When I've done curriculum design work, I'm thinking particularly about an organization called Centropa, which is centered in Vienna and which is interested in recovering and preserving the memory of Jewish life experiences in Europe before, during, and after the Holocaust. Their mission is about storytelling, and it's about photography, and it's about making accessible the rich tradition of Jewish life in Europe before the Holocaust, so that one does not just understand 20th century European Jewish history from the single perspective of Holocaust studies, but rather from a broader perspective. And I have found that work to be deeply meaningful, because it's working with teachers to help them develop skills to go out and to teach other teachers, and they can teach other teachers, and so on. In 10 years, I think education is likely to be even more able to meld, to join that Greek practice that I was talking about with 21st century practice. I anticipate that as the profession becomes more and more able to identify what exactly is going on in the realm of social change, that we will be able, as a profession, to become more and more nimble in the ways in which we respond to that change. Education in one word, difficult. I'm going to say doing. And thank you so much. I had a great time, and I look forward to working with you, continuing on, going on, and ever onward in the 21st century.